Hi, hello, and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Mephisto, and our epic journey through the history of Formula One continues today with the final round of the 1950 season, the Italian Grand Prix, which was held on the 3rd of September. It had 42 entries, the most circuits that carried on into the modern era. Monza 2 has some striking resemblance to its original layout, and the lap starts on a very long straight. Then we come into turn 1, which is Curva Grande. We have Nino Farina on pole, second is Fangio, Rosier third, Ascari is fourth. Then in fifth we have Prince Bira and there's a bit of lag, Fagioli is sixth, Bonetto seventh, Louis Chiron eighth, Rick Parnell holds ninth, Peter Whitehead is in 10th, Hampshire 11th, Serafini 12th, Cabantu 13th, Raymond Sommer 14th, 15th is held by Robert Manzon, followed by Kelly in 16th, Crosley is 17th, Philippe Tanserin 18th, 19th is held by Eugene Chabot, Cuff Harrison is 20th, Harry Schell is 21st, and our guy Andy Higgs is 22nd. So here we are at the final race of this season, and there's everything to fight for. Nino Farina is currently in second place in the standings, but if he wins this race, or even finishes second and I don't score any points, he could still win the championship. And there we go, we are off, and there's already a yellow flag as cars struggle to get away from the grid. We see Harry Schell in front of us in his Cooper, and in front of him are the two Altas and the second ERA of Cuff Harrison. But yes, this race is going to be very important to pretty much everyone. Myself, Nino Farina, and Harry Schell could also potentially win the championship. As we come into Curva Grande, where we had a lot of problems in qualifying, we already see some cars retiring from the race. That's two cars already out of the race. Luckily, because there was a yellow flag and I came in quite slower, I didn't crash into anything. And now here's a replay of the start. Very slow off the line, but I was trying to be cautious not to hit anyone, not to damage the car. You cannot race without a car, after all, so I want to try and keep it intact until the very end if possible. Didn't gain any positions yet, but hopefully soon. And this is Juan Manuel Fangio coming into Curva Grande, goes wide just like me in qualifying, crashes into that fence and loses his front left wheel. Next we have Cabantu, who's coming into Curva Grande, loses control of the car, smashes into that hay bale and loses his rear left wheel. Then it's Rosier in his Talbot Lago, loses his control, loses control of the car. I can't talk again, and he retires from the race as well. This is Eugene Chabot coming into this left-hander, loses control of the car once again and decides to retire. And finally we have Crosley in the Alta coming into this right-hander and kind of gets stuck on those hay bales. Cuff Harrison gets himself free, but not Crosley, who retires. So, thanks to that, we already are in 15th, which is quite amazing. As we come around to finish the first lap of this race and start lap 2, we have Cuff Harrison behind us, Joe Kelly in his Alta around 1 second up the road, and there we can see him right now in front of us. Hopefully we'll be able to overtake him before we enter Curva Grande. It doesn't really seem like it, and we see a car at the side of the road there. It's one of the red ones, an Italian car. I'm not sure which one it is. Here's a replay of Raymond Sommer in his Ferrari. He comes around the Curva Grande and loses control of the car, hits the fence and spins the car a bit. So that was the red car we saw. Next we have Joe Kelly in his Alta coming around Curva Grande, crashes into Sommer and he... Actually, that's Serafini's car. He crashed into Serafini and Kelly for some reason decided to retire despite the car looking intact. And this is Serafini coming through in the Lesmo 1, losing control of his car, spinning it around and getting a bit stuck, but he's still in the race. So that moves us up into 13th and we're now chasing Felipe Tancerin, who's some 9.5 seconds up the road, so we have a lot of catching up to do. This is lap 3 and we are closer a bit to Felipe Tancerin. He's around 5 seconds ahead and something happens because we're catching up very quickly up to him. And this is a replay of David Hampshire who crashes into a car there. I think that's an Alfa, or rather a Maserati, I'm not sure. That was Bonetto's car, so that was a Maserati who loses control of his car, spins it around, and that was the car in which Hampshire hit. And here we are coming through trying to get around Hampshire. So that moves us up into 9th and Peter Whitehead is just in front of us. We'll try to make a move on the outside here and we are through and chasing after Felipe Tancerin once again, who is 5 seconds up the road. This race is turning out to be quite interesting and there we go, we pass Felipe Tancerin on lap 4, so we are now in 7th. 2 more places and we'll be in the points, which would be absolutely amazing. Lap 12 and we're chasing after Bira. We see him right in front of us and we move up into 6th. That's perfect. One more place and we'll be in the points. That will be very welcome. And this is Louis Chiron coming through that fast left-hander, loses control of his car and for some reason decides to retire from the race despite the fact that his car doesn't seem damaged. I don't know what happened. Oh, that's what happened. An Alfa Romeo came and punted him from behind into the fence and he lost his front left wheel, so that's why he retired. Anyway, because of that we move up into 5th, so we are now in the points. That's 2 points if we finish the race in this position. Up in front of us is Harry Schell, some around 1 second in front, so we will try to catch up to him as well, and we will, it seems, as we come into Curva Grande, make sure we slow down just enough to make the corner, not to crash into anything. However, a few hundred meters later, as we are coming through Lesmo 1, we can see Harry Schell challenging for position again into Lesmo 2, and Harry Schell takes 4th place away from us. But I'm sure we can catch him soon enough. And this is Cuff Harrison, Robert Manzon, sorry, coming into the pits for some reason. And as we know, the pits are bugged, so he will eventually retire. It's a bit annoying, especially since, as I said, I've turned off fuel consumption and tire wear, so I have no idea why the AI is still coming into the pits, but oh well, I guess. Meanwhile, we managed to climb back up into 4th by overtaking Harry Schell as we come through what will eventually become Parabolica. This is Curva Sud as it's known back then. This is lap 13 and now lap 14th coming into Curva Grande. Again, I carried too much speed just as I did in qualifying. I slammed into that hay bale and lost my front left wheel. So this is the end of the race, and now I lost my front right wheel because I hit something, I'm not sure what. But this is the end of the race for us, unfortunately, and that's the end of the championship. First we have a replay of Ascari in his Ferrari. He loses control of the car, slams into the fence there, and he's upside down. And here is a replay of Andy Higgs, our guy. We can see coming into Curva Grande at full speed, full lock. However, that wasn't enough because the speed was too high, and unfortunately, that is the end of the race and the end of the championship. I'm not too proud of that, but oh well. 3 retirements in a 7 round season, that's almost half of the races retired from, so not particularly proud of the overall outcome of the season, but hey, could have been worse, couldn't it? Crosley, if I remember, retired from each and every one of the races, so that was something. And here we have Etan Stellin, who retired on lap 18th. As you can see, he lost control, and that's the end. Then on lap 23, the penultimate lap, Peter Whitehead came into the pits. He was 1 lap behind the leader, so at this point, about this point, Nino Farina came into the pits to finish his cooldown lap and unfortunately forcing Whitehead to retire. And here is Nino Farina coming to take the win of the 1950 Italian Grand Prix and thus taking the championship win as well. And we can see Fagioli in second, Shelford, Bira fourth, and Cuff Harrison in fifth. And here are the retirements, and we can see there on the right column, right at the